So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you have joined in from. Today, it is our fourth annual conference, the Re-Emergence. And before we get started, uh, let us know on the chat window what comes to your mind when you think of the Re-Emergence. Do you have positive thoughts about it, or do you think again something negative? Type on the chat window and let us know what do you think when you hear the word the re-emergence. Grace, would you moderate the chat for me? Do
Sure,
you see
Priya.
anything on the chat? No, not yet.
Not yet. Let's hear your text.
Okay, so I think while people are still thinking, let us move ahead with the big round of introduction, big or small round of introduction. So we have on this call our leads, our region leads. First of all, Cecilia Bochi, our Latin America lead. Cecilia, you're speaking on mute.
Hi, yes, I'm sorry I was mute. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here again, and thank you everyone for connected. As Priya said, I am leading from Latin America and glad to be part of this powerful network.
Yeah, thank you, Cecilia. And we have the charming Grace from our Africa region lead. Grace. Grace, you're on mute as well. Can you hear us, Grace?
Yeah, I can hear you, Priya.
Okay.
Hi.
All right.
Hi.
Okay. All right. So, and we also have Olufanke, who is our editor of the monthly newsletter that we publish on the 5th of every month. So you will see one coming out tomorrow. Olufanke, over to you to say hi to everyone.
Hello everyone. Hello, pleasure to be here. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Olufanke. Please say hello to each other and let us know from where you have joined in. There is a Menti poll that we have created and it is on your screen. And the code is 39014849. Please feel free to let us know which country you have joined in today. Actually, we have lots of registrations. We have around registrations from 45 countries to be precise. And of course, it's represented by our regional leads as well. So thank you everyone for this wonderful, overwhelming response, I would say. And let the show begin. But before we begin, there are some housekeeping rules which we follow. We are all here to celebrate leadership, be it me, men or women, especially women leadership, because this is the Women's Month, right? And we are all speaking on our individual capacity. Our views expressed here do not represent any way the organization that we work for. This meeting is recorded, as you might have heard that message. So if you are uncomfortable in any ways, please feel free to hop off. If not, you are welcome to join our celebration. And let me give you a glimpse of what our community is all about. I see many known faces on the call today. So known faces or voices, I would say, I've never met them before. Except for Cecilia and Lee, I have never met anyone who is here on this call. But yes, there are many known faces on the call today. You already know what Women Power of Network is all about. But I would request Lee, our advisor and mentor, to come and speak a few words about our community while I display that boring slide that I display all the time. Lee, are you also speaking on mute? Yes, you are. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Adriana Garavaglia, PMI Buenos Aires chapter president, and I'm glad to be here. And we have a cooperation agreement with a Women Power Up network. And I think that this cooperation network is based on women empowerment, because for me is a feeling of freedom to make things happen and achieve our goals, because it's very important for us, to our chapter, to have the possibility to bring new women the possibility to grow. We work very hard, and thank you so much for inviting me, Priya.
Thank you, Adriana. And Lee Lambert, can you hear us?
I would be happy to join you anytime.
Yeah, so would you say a few words about our community?
I would. I am so proud to be associated with you characters. A lot of knowledge there, a lot of brain trust assembled. I think it's a great opportunity. As many of you know, I'm a huge supporter of the women's movement in project management. I think you have a lot to offer, and I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you, Lee. And so over to you, Grace, for our partners speak section. And yeah, and I would hand over the stage to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Priya. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I've put up the Mentimeter link and as well as the code. Please kindly let us know where you're joining in, what part of the world you're actually joining in from. My name is Grace Johnson, and I'm the Women Power Up lead for Africa. I am currently in Abuja, Nigeria. Abuja, Nigeria is the capital of Nigeria. So warm regards from Africa. In this section, I'll be introducing our partners, our supporters. They've been there for us year in, year out. They support women, and they found us to be one community they can really support, and they've really been there for us all the while. Before we move on, let's join hands together and welcome the International Association of Project Managers, the PMO officers. I think that's in Latin America. We also have Agile in Education, United States of America. We have the Project Management Institute, Slovenia, and as well as the Project Management Institute, Buenos Aires, Argentina. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll be calling on each of them to give us a word on why they're actually supporting Women Power Up Network. So Linda is from the International Association of Project Managers. Can we have you speak? Hi,
Hello.
Linda.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here. Yes, I'm Linda. I'm from the International Association of Project Managers, and I am based in Germany, in the southern part of Germany, but our association is based in Liechtenstein, which is a very small country close to Switzerland, also in Europe. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nice to have you. I'll be coming back to you in a bit. I didn't introduce our recent partner, Agnostic Agile. Yes, we have Ari as one of our keynote speakers today, and we're really excited. Okay, do we have Hannah from Agile in Education USA? Okay, I'll call on Cecilia to have a word from Project Management Institute, Buenos Aires. Cecilia?
That would be Adriana.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
Adriana.
Adriana Garavaglia, she's the president of Buenos Aires chapter.
My bad,
Yes.
my bad. Apologies. Adriana,
Yes.
we would love to have you. Why actually have you decided to support Women Power Up Network? I see you made a brief statement earlier, but if you could just say something more about why you feel it's really important to support women and why you're in here supporting Women Power Up Network.
Here in the chapter, we are very convinced that women have the power to embrace things and make it happen. For that reason, we think that we have to support and give a cooperation, have sorry for my English, I am very nervous. But yes, apart from that, my daughter came from Denmark yesterday. I am so happy and a bit nervous because she was the last side, and I want to share things with her, no? But I be here, and I think that we are very compromised with women, and I support very much this kind of events for women. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Adriana. Your English is lovely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll be going over to Leonardo. Do we have him on the call from PMO officers?
Yes, so he's been represented by Walter Lee on the call.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Walter Lee, can we have you? Let's have a word on why you think it's important to really support women, and why you're supporting Women Power Up Network. We know you've really been there for us all the years. Let's have a word from you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and thank you for inviting us. Sorry that Leo couldn't be here, but we are an organization, so we are the same. So especially for us, it's very important because we cover, we are in Spain, based here in Barcelona, but we cover the whole region, and also we cover, we are working also in Latin America. And it's special because we impulse really work with women. You know how Latin American is, and Spanish is, and the problem we have with empowering women. Our organization always impulse that, especially having that disadvantage with the issue that we have with different salaries, different places, and then we, as a non-profit organization, we try to enforce the PMO, the project management environment. So we also work with customer, trying to, impulse the women that work in that kind of organization to try to move that person's to place into the role that can be achieved more than a simple role. Wow. So thank you for inviting us.
Oh, we're glad to have you. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. I love to Leonardo. Okay. Do we have anyone from Project Management Institute Slovenia? Mariana? Hi.
You see Mariana? Okay, I think she's not there.
She's not here. I think she's not here.
Okay.
Okay. I think we'll have them speak later. Okay, at this point, I think Ari also is not yet on the call from Agnostic Agile. We just recently had them as our partners, and we hope for better things in the future. We'll be handing over at this point to Priya, and I think we'll come back again to our partners and have a word from PMI Slovenia and Agnostic Agile. Thank you so much. Priya?
Yeah, and with this, we will move on to the next part of our section, of our session, which is the keynote of the day. But before we do that, I would like to hand over to Cecilia to introduce Dr. Catherine Wu and take it forward. Cecilia?
Yes, I'm here. Priya, do you want to share the presentation, please?
Yes, I will do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And we have registrations from 45 countries Wow, that's great. I don't know, Priya, if you have the real connected people from which countries we are, but we have registration from 45 countries. That's great.
Yeah.
This is a really
Yeah, if everyone has taken the poll on the Menti, then we will know from where people have joined in. But looks like people are still taking the poll. We'll get back to that a little later in the event.
great. And let me introduce our opening keynote speaker, Dr. Catherine Wu. Dr. Catherine is cultural intelligence evangelist, intercultural science communicator, and cross-cultural content creator. Dr. Catherine has been fascinated by our cultures since she was 13 years old. Growing up in the rural south of France, she was barely exposed to cultural differences as a child 18 years ago. Catherine is professor in Center for Leadership and Cultural Intelligence at Nanyang Technology University in Singapore, the first research center on cultural intelligence in the world. Whoa. Dr. Catherine translates intercultural and cultural intelligence science into practical insights accessible to everyone in the hope of growing cultural awareness, improving intercultural relations between people around the world, and ultimately building a more harmonious society for our children to live in. Her goal is to help 1 million people improve their cultural intelligence. Well, Catherine, it's a place to have you here.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Priya and Grace, for your very gracious invitation to allow me to share more about cultural intelligence and what we do here with you tonight. I wonder if I can share my screen. I have a few slides I would like to use to hopefully make you even more interested.
Yes, please, you can share. Just let me know if you are not able, but I think you can share. Yeah.
Okay. So Cecilia has already introduced me, and I wanted to say a few more things about myself that, about a year ago, I decided, or I give myself a goal, because I like to have goals in my life, and I like to have goals with numbers. So I decided I would tell 1 million people about cultural intelligence. And so today I'm going to introduce more of the work that I've been doing for the past almost 15 to 20 years, including some of the work that we've been doing here in Singapore at the Center for Leadership and Cultural Intelligence. But before we start, I'd like to get a sense of everyone's mood today. So how is your energy level? So if you can, if you can show your face, you can give me numbers with your hands, or you can type in the chat a number, 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 4 bars. What's your energy level? 3, 4. Okay, 4, 5. Oh, wow. This is amazing. Okay, so what I'm about to do now is not intended to kill your motivation. In fact, it's only intended to make it even more. Okay, so please bear with me. So who knows someone who was affected by the earthquake in Turkey? Whether you know that person personally or not personally doesn't matter, but and maybe it's you or that person is affected directly or indirectly. So raise your hand, wave, or just put a thumb up or some notes in the chat. I see already a few hands waving. So some of you do, right? So we all know that there was an earthquake a few weeks ago in Turkey. And one thing that I found particularly surprising, not surprising, but interesting to me is that a week after the earthquake, somebody shared the post of somebody else on LinkedIn, on social media. And these are two Turkish professionals. And these are people like you and I who have regular lives. They don't necessarily live in Turkey. They have, their own business. And you can read the text, but the key message that they were trying to say is, hello world, something really terrible happened back home, and we are still processing it. And as we engage in collaboration, many of our collaboration are remote, working with people from all over the world. For us, this is not business as usual. So please be patient. Now, who knows someone who is affected by the war in Ukraine? Again, personally or a distant person affected directly or indirectly. Likewise, you can wave or you can put a note in the chat. I don't know you, but me, I'm from France originally, so I'm European. And when the war started a year ago, I felt so shocked by it that it took me several days to get over it. And I wrote about it. Again, I posted in my social media. It wasn't business as usual for me, but this was only me. I had no personal stake in that conflict, that situation. At the same time, I got to know from some of my friends, including many people who work in technology-related businesses and organizations, actually they had a lot of colleagues from Ukraine. Again, because of remote work and what happened during COVID, it has become so easy to work from anywhere around the world. And apparently, lots of people are outsourcing their technical, technical development, website maintenance, database, and all of this to people in Ukraine. And so I was shocked by what happened. I can not even begin to imagine how, these people felt. And not just the ones in Ukraine, but also the ones everywhere around the world. I remember in Singapore, there's a large Ukrainian community. So there are a lot of Ukrainians living here as expatriates, living their lives. So for them, for 1 year, it hasn't been business as usual. 1 year ago, I was conducting an online webinar. It was with a global client. So it was similar to what we are doing tonight. We had people from all around the world. And I was doing this with my partner, who is Chinese, and she lives in Shanghai. 30 minutes before the call, she texted me, and she said, Catherine, I will probably be late. I just got the text. I have to go to the testing center. At that time, Shanghai had been in lockdown, complete lockdown for 6 weeks, and they had random checks at any time of the day, and there was no way to say, no, I have a call, I cannot go there. Now, at the same time in Singapore, we were lifting the COVID restrictions. So it wasn't business as usual for her, but it was getting back to business as usual for me. Who is having a particularly rainy week? Raise your hand. I'm probably the only one, but this is making headlines in Singapore. This news is from today or yesterday. This week has been particularly rainy, and this is the most significant thing that happened to us this week in Singapore. Now, what I want to say here is that big and small events are affecting us every day, and they affect us differently depending on where we are. And because of technology, we actually can get to work together, but we don't know what's happening in other people's lives. So technology has brought us closer in a way that English had brought us closer in the past. Back in the day, we had to travel. Even pre-COVID, most of us would have to travel if we wanted to work with people from other countries. Maybe we don't have to travel all the time, but we will be doing a lot of our communication through emails, and technologies like Zoom and Teams and all of that were not as widely adopted, especially in non-technical fields as it is today. So most people will have to hop on a plane to go and meet the people, their collaborators all around the world. This is similar to what happened, with English. Back in the days, you wanted to work with someone from another country or culture, you had to rely on interpreters or people who were bilingual or bicultural, and these were relatively few. compared to today. Today, and so by some account, there are 2 billion English speakers, and the majority of them are second language speakers, like me and many of you. So technology and language have solved the problem of physical distance and communication. But there is one problem that technology and language cannot solve. And this is a problem of culture. And here I'm going to bring you to a definition of culture that will send us back to the examples I have shared earlier about what's happening in our lives. Now, culture is a well-known source of problems in business. This data is quite old. It's probably 20-something years old. I don't think it has changed very much, but it was still based on the days where to work across culture, we had to do so mostly physically. So people from one country moving to another country, working together in some kind of like similar space. It was a problem back then, and it's not going to go away with technology. Now, that brings us to the question, what is culture? Right? Culture is this thing that we all talk about, but how can we define it in a way that is meaningful and useful? So let's imagine you come and visit me in Singapore, and I invite you to lunch in one of our very common, in Singapore, we eat in what we call food courts, where you go and you can choose from all kinds of food. You buy your food and then you go and look for a seat. So here you are holding your food, walking around, looking for a place to sit, and you come across this table. Do you sit? So if you sit, you can give me a thumb up or a wave. If you don't sit, I don't know. Okay, I see some people. Peter is giving me the thumb up or a sign too. Okay, do you sit? Now, as you can imagine, this is a trick question. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking it. You can sit, but if you sit, you will be taking somebody else's seat. In Singapore, there is a practice that is called chop. Chop is what happens when you use a personal belonging, typically a pack of tissue, but it can be an umbrella, it can be your wallet, it can even be your cell phone. You leave it on the table, you go away, get your food. When you come back, your belonging is still on the table and your seat is here waiting for you. One of my students described this practice of chop as when you use a pack of tissue and this pack of tissue become an extension of you, so that when you're not here, people still know that you are here. But there's a caveat to this. This only works if other people in your environment understand the meaning of the pack of tissue. And in that sense, a pack of tissue becomes a symbol, a tool for communication. But for communication to happen, you need to have other people who also understand the meaning of the communication. If I were to do this in my country back in France, inevitably somebody would sit. Nobody would care about the pack of tissue. So we call this culture. Culture is a set of rules, visible and invisible, that are shared by a group of people. In that case, the rule is the pack of tissue, is the meaning of the pack of tissue. The rule is if you see a pack of tissue on a table in Singapore, you should not sit because it's a signal that this table or the seat is reserved. Now we talk about so these are the invisible rules, the ones that are hidden, what we say taken for granted. And if you Google, if you ask, what do I need to know about traveling to Singapore, it's very unlikely that you will read about chop practice. You will really have to look for it intentionally. It's not going to come up as the first thing, that people will tell you, because it is so common that people don't even think that is the thing. My students, my Singaporean students, when they go overseas, they are surprised to realize that this practice is not understood in other parts of the world. Now, we also talk about visible rules, and that is why I also show you this picture. On this picture, you can see the sign, the safe dining rules. This picture was taken during the lockdown, the COVID time. So some rules are explicit. Imagine like the law, for example, or the signs on the side of the road. These are explicit rules that also differ to a certain extent between different environments, different group of people. So culture is both, is a visible and the invisible rule that are shared by a group of people who understand them and use them as a mode of coordinating the action so that they maintain some form of cohesion in the group. Now, this idea of sharedness and this idea of culture is a bit like a fish in water. As a fish, the fish is swimming in the water. The fish doesn't know it's in water, only when it's outside of the water. Culture is a bit the same. And that's one of the reasons why many people don't even think of culture. Most people who think of culture are people like you and I who have experienced other cultures. To understand that culture is a thing, you have to come out of your own culture and you have to travel to another place. You have to work with other people who have very different way of doing things to realize the extent to which your culture is influencing yourself, your thinking, your actions. So there is this question of how do we see culture, right? But the problem with this is when we work remotely or when we work collaboratively through technology in this kind of like virtual space, technology, as I say, removes this problem of distance, but it hasn't changed the problem of the cultural distance, the psychological distance. So it's a bit like if we were bringing our little fishbowl side by side, just like today, it's a bit of, our little fishbowl. For me, the worst thing that has happened this week in Singapore is heavy rain for 3 or 4 days. But something a lot more terrible may have happened to you, and I don't know. And it's even harder for me to know because we are limited by the space and the context that we can give to our interactions. Literally, all I see of you is your face, right? I don't even see what's happening around you. You don't even know where I am because I'm using a virtual background. So we are bringing our fishbowl closer together and somehow we are trying to find some kind of space where we can collaborate. But we are removing this context that still is there because it's going to influence the way I communicate with you, the way I approach a task or I coordinate my actions. So the question is, how can we create a new fishbowl? A fishbowl that we can all jump into when we collaborate remotely, where we can leave our little fishbowl of our own space. And for an hour or so, we can be in that new fishbowl where we are all aligned in our rules, the visible and the invisible rules. Now, there's a lot of talk about remote work and remote collaborations because now it's happening even more than before. And one of the skills that people need to learn, it's been said, is intercultural skills. And I believe that intercultural skills will become even more important than before now because of technology and the ease of remote collaboration. And the reason is because in the past, if you wanted to collaborate with someone from another country, if I wanted to join you for a conference like this, I would have to hop on a plane and meet all of you in some place. It would be another country, another location. And then I would get to spend more time with you instead of this short period of time we are spending today. I would have the chance to go have dinner with Priya and talk to many of you. Maybe we can have coffee and all that. So I would have a lot more opportunities to get to know you and somehow to create that space where our little fishbowls are actually overlapping somehow. Now, for me to do this, I will also need to have an interest. People who don't like to travel, they don't travel. People who have no interest and no curiosity for other cultures, they don't hop on a plane and go and visit other countries. And back in the days, if I'm an organization and I have to send someone to collaborate with someone in another part of the world, I would still be thinking of some form of criteria for selecting that person. I mean, it depends on groups and the conditions, but generally there will be some form of selection. But now that anybody can collaborate with anybody from anywhere around the world, there's no more selection criteria for working across cultures because we don't even think of culture. I look at all of you and, if I think of culture a lot because it's my job, but if you'd never think of culture, you can go into that call, have, these interactions and never consider culture. We don't see each other fishbowl. We don't recognize them. And so now we are going to have people who have no interest, no experience, no background in crossing cultures any way whatsoever, who will end up spending their entire career working remotely with people globally, just because it's so easy to do that, and you don't even need to leave your living room. So how do we do this? What kind of skills can we think of using to train people, select them, and so on? Now, if I ask all of you to give me the skills that you have seen, let's say setting apart people who are successful at crossing cultures, I'm going to get as many answers as there are people in this room. This is not practical. From the point of view of a manager, a recruiter, a head of learning, or anybody who is in the business of, forming the best team, it's not practical to have 100 answers to a simple question. How do I train my people? What are the skills I want to see, right? And so this was the question that professors at my university, Professor Sun An, and together with Christopher Early, started asking more than 30 years ago. They ask, what are the qualities that set apart, that differentiate the people who are good at crossing cultures, who can work effectively with anyone from anywhere, from those who really can't, right? And so they came up with this idea of cultural intelligence. Now, cultural intelligence is nothing new in terms of intercultural competence. I like to say it's an organizing framework. It's just a framework, it's a model that gives us a clear plan with clear dimensions or categories that we need to address when we recruit people, when we train them, when we try to retain them to work in a global environment. Now, the research on cultural intelligence has been ongoing for more than almost 30 years now, and it has shown consistently that this model, this way of defining intercultural skills is consistently correlated positively with outcomes that are valuable for leaders, global leaders and global managers and people in global teams. And they include, obviously, adapting to new cultures, but this is only valuable for people who actually have to travel and live in other countries. But it's also associated to things like psychological well-being, so less stress and burnout, culture shock, when we have to work with people who are very different, better decisions in an international, intercultural context. Especially here, we are talking about decisions that include people from diverse backgrounds, diverse customers, diverse regions, better effectiveness in teams, better teamwork and better leadership, and obviously better performance. Now, one thing that we have learned in the 30 years of research, first of all, is that CQ has nothing to do with where you grew up. It works for everyone. It's a global, universal quality that we observe in people from anywhere. We know this because the research has been happening all around the world. We say 161 countries. And one thing that we have learned also is that anybody can learn cultural intelligence. So it's not something that you are born with. It's related to some personality traits. Obviously, if you are open to experience, you are the kind that look for like new adventures, you tend to have, it's easier for you to develop cultural intelligence, but not because you have it, just because you naturally engage in more of those experiences that help you learn. But it doesn't matter. Anybody can learn this. So this is quite important to know. And now I'm going to introduce you, the 4 qualities of people who have high cultural intelligence. And the way I'm going to introduce this is by asking you to reflect on yourself. So the first quality is the drive. The drive is the motivation, the motivation, the joy, the pleasure that we feel from working with people who are diverse. Not only this, it's also the perseverance, the confidence that when things get difficult, because sometimes when we have different way of doing things, obviously there are times where it's not so easy. So the confidence that you can get through. The second one is the knowledge. The knowledge is what you know about people from different cultures or other cultures. The strategy is what happened in your head. So knowing is one thing, applying that knowledge is another thing. And you need to have, people who are culturally intelligent, they have this mental agility to recognize when whatever they know is applicable, when they are stereotyping, when they are falling on their biases. So this mental gymnastics is what we call the strategy. And the last one is the action, is the behaviors. How do you change your behaviors when you work with people from different backgrounds? So let's look at you and your drive. When I work with people from other cultures, this is how I feel. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. So you can type in the chat, you can show with your hands. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5, we have the wide range of answers. Now, it's natural to feel anxiety. We know that in cross-cultural relations, as soon as we perceive a certain difference, they naturally give rise to some form of anxiety. The anxiety is due to the uncertainty. I don't know. I don't know if the person will like me. I don't know if we can understand each other. If you have to speak English or another language and it's not, you don't feel comfortable, there is also language anxiety. Will people think, will they be able to understand me? Will they think I'm smart and competent? This is something really important because language is the way we share, we project ourselves to others. And when we do this in a second language, it takes a while before we can get to that level where we are as eloquent in another language as we are in our first language. So it's back to this idea that, the more distance, the more different we perceive each other, the more anxious we feel. And one thing I have seen in teams, in organizations, different managers, that has worked really well is this idea of under the tree. So under the tree is based on the principle that familiarity breeds liking. We like more things that are familiar. We like more people who look familiar. It's just a natural human instinct. So the question is, when we work remotely, how do we get to create that space where we can start to feel familiar with each other? And so I've seen managers, one particular manager told me that once a week, he has this hour, he blocks his calendar, and he called that under the tree. He tells his team, I'll be under my tree. And what that means, it means that for 1 hour a week or 2 hours, I don't remember, he turned on his, maybe on Zoom, there's a Zoom meeting that is on, and here he's there doing his work, and his team can join in, they can join anytime to talk about anything, just casual chit chat, just, anything. So it's this idea to have a bit like an open door policy, but doing it virtually. This is just one example. But again, we have to recognize that not everybody has that drive to collaborate, to work across culture, because some elements of cross-cultural interactions are inherently stressful. Now, the next, how much do you know about other cultures? So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I ask you to describe the culture of people maybe you work with, we cannot know everything about everyone around the world, right? But how much do you know? How confident do you feel about describing the culture of others? Yeah. Some people say 1. Okay. Oh, okay. So for this one knowledge is typically the focus of most cross-cultural training. If you take cross-cultural training, the commercial ones, there are many, they really concentrate on this and giving you some tools, some category and models to describe other cultures in ways that are more or less specific. I'm just going to show you one example, which is the communication, cultural differences in communication. So one very common way to describe cultural differences in communication is the direct-indirect communication style that is nicely represented in those ideograms. In some cultures, when somebody want to say no, they just say no. But in other countries, when people want to say no, they say yes. And some other things, right? Yes, it's a good idea. It would be better if we did it, you know, this, and this way. I'm French. I've lived in Asia for 20 years. I really experienced this one on a daily basis. But it's not just about East-West. It happens, you know, there are some characteristics. I mean, and again, here I give you some generic, I mean, there are some ranking about nations and cultures, but I don't think those rankings are so important. What's important to be culturally intelligent is to know that those differences exist, to have an idea of what they look like, so that when we come across them, we can label them. And then we don't judge each other based on, you know, you are professional or unprofessional, but instead we say, hey, you know, maybe that's your culture, right? So this is the part that, this is how we build knowledge. So there are many other of those dimensions. I'm not going to go through them today, but I just wanted to give you, you know, a flavor of it. Now, the third one is a strategy, as I said. This is how often I think about culture during online collaborations. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to say that for me, it's a 4 because it's my job, right? Every day for the past 20 years, I've been thinking about culture. So I see culture in everything. But most people, especially if we are not exposed to a different cultural environment on a regular basis, it's very hard to think about it. Because if you go back to this metaphor of the fish, it's our water. You know, we don't spend every day thinking about the air we breathe, right? It's just there. We don't think about it. But it's really important because thinking about culture is what's going to get us from here, you know, this, remember, you know, our online collaboration, where we bring our little fishbowl side by side to here, where we recreate that new fishbowl, where we can all be together in this online collaboration, following rules that we all understand and align. And this is only possible if we are consciously thinking about culture and recreating or taking the step to create a new culture that is bringing us a little bit closer in this virtual space. I think is the hardest one of the 4 qualities of cultural intelligence. This is the hardest one to train. I can make you excited about crossing cultures. I can teach you the knowledge, the models, but I cannot change the way you think. And this is the part where we have to be intentional. We have to consciously bring culture into the conversation, make it something obvious and visible that we think of eventually all the time. And this requires intention and effort. Now, once we have all of this, is not enough. We need to have the last step. So action is about translating what's in your head into something that other people can see. And what people can see is your behaviors, is the words that you use, is, you know, your facial expressions, is your body language. So my question to you is, this is how much I change the way I communicate when I work with colleagues from other cultures. 1, 2, 3, 4. How much conscious effort do you make to change, you know, the way you give feedback, the way you facilitate a discussion, the way you agree or disagree with people. So that one requires 2 things. It requires consciousness that differences exist, you know, that other people may have different preferences. And then it requires, I want to say, more than skills. Because if we think about the way we disagree, for example, if you come from the culture where when you disagree, you say, I disagree. And suddenly you work with a culture where when people say, instead of saying, I disagree, they say, I agree, and maybe it would be better. And it feels very uncomfortable to have to do this, right? The adapting to the other side is not just a matter of skills and doing it. It's also about how do we feel internally. I lived in Asia for almost 20 years. I work with young students. I mean, I work with people of all ages, but I teach undergraduate in university. And one thing I have seen for many of them is, they are used to have a more indirect way of expressing their opinion. And even when they try to be more direct, it feels so wrong to them. It feels like, my mother has always told me you have to be caring and thoughtful of other feelings. And when you are too direct, it's hurtful to others. And now you are telling me that I have to be direct and I have to hurt other people's feelings. This feels so wrong. But it's a skill. It's a skill that's needed. So sometimes maybe we don't have to go all the way, but these are, at least we have to learn new ways of structuring our interactions so that we consider all these different ways of communicating that the people around the table will have. So these are the 4 qualities of cultural intelligence and people with high CQ: the drive, the knowledge, the strategy, and the action. And now I just want to leave you with 3 very concrete and specific actions that we can take to try to, enable more cultural intelligence in our teams. The first one is making that effort to spend time getting to know each other a little better. I didn't push it too hard, but at the beginning, I asked you, how do you feel today? The mood barometer, right? If the team is smaller, this is just a nice way to maybe engage in a small conversation. Start to understand what's happening in your little fishbowl, right? For me, I'm having a wet day, but some of you may have friends who are really, suffering from an earthquake or war or some, other calamities. So that's the first thing, intentionally making the time to connect with each other. The second one is to design collaborations, rules with culture in mind. Back to this idea of different modes of communication. You don't know how the other people around the table or in the virtual call like to communicate. Some of us are very direct in our ideas. We have an idea, we just say it. Others will be waiting for their turn or an invitation to share. So there is no one size fits all, but some ideas are, I give you 2. One is a talking stick, consciously, intentionally making sure that everyone has spoken and controlling the time, so it's not always the same one that dominates. And the second one is the most junior always speaks first, because culture also differ in the way they relate to power and authority. And in culture where power is a big deal, as soon as the leader has spoken, everybody agrees with them. Now, it's not the case in every culture. There are cultures where it doesn't matter. The most junior person will have no issue contradicting the leader. But this is not common all around the world. And again, despite, even if you know all the country profile, you don't know what the individual is going to prefer. So creating this kind of rules, at least give everyone a chance to collaborate in a way that is adapted to the different cultural preferences that people may have. Again, because we don't know until we have actually spoken to them. Now, the last thing is make cultural intelligence a criteria for selection and training. Now, that is difficult because, as I said at the beginning, now you don't need to have those criteria anymore. Anybody can work with anyone around the world. But nonetheless, somebody, at least even if selection is not based on cultural intelligence, at least have some form of conversation and training to raise some level of awareness on cultural differences. It can be as simple as starting a conversation, sharing, taking turn to share. In my culture, when I talk to the boss, this is how I do. Just simple prompts and situation, and everybody introduce, their approach to it. What's in it for us and for you and for me in our global collaborations is more trust. Research shows consistently that having higher cultural intelligence in the team leads to higher trust. Higher trust is essential for teams because it facilitates psychological safety. I'm sure you are all familiar with this idea. When people trust each other, they speak up more, they challenge each other more, they raise new ideas, they also share when they make mistakes. And eventually this naturally leads to a higher, more effective, more creative, more innovative teams. But CQ starts with you. CQ is the one thing that we cannot outsource to other people. We have to do it ourselves. I think you got it. So if you are interested to learn more, I'd like you to, maybe as we end this talk, you can reflect on one small step you can take to start growing your cultural intelligence. So I leave it up to you to think about this, because again, you know better what possible in your little fishbowl. And for me, you can follow me on social media. I write a lot about cultural intelligence. I also have a podcast when I talk about it. And I'm very thankful for this invitation. Thank you, everyone. That's all I have for you today.
Whoa, what inspiring speech. This conference make me think a lot of my awareness in cultural intelligence. So thank you very much, Dr. Catherine.
Thank you, Cecilia.
And now, Priya, could you share your presentation, please? Yes, to give our... Yes, Catherine, please accept this token of appreciation from Women Power Up Network. We are really, really inspired with your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so shall we have one of the questions, if there are any, on the chat window? Grace Alufanke, do you see any questions on the chat for Dr. Catherine? But there are very, very good feedback, Dr. Catherine. Lots of takeaways. Thank you, Dr. Catherine. Great presentation and insightful presentation as well. I myself is very, very interested in cultural intelligence, and that's how, I find this talk very, very interesting, especially the framework, drive, knowledge, strategy, and action. Before I read that book, Dr. Catherine, I just thought cultural intelligence is about knowledge, knowing about other cultures. But yes, it's much more than that. Okay, so I don't see any questions as such, but I see... Okay, there's a question, Dr. Catherine. Do you see more or less patience in how people react to cultural breaches in today's world?
Well, in my experience, the more you think of culture, the more patient you are. Because this idea of culture, if I know that, okay, my communication is this way because of my culture, my upbringing, the way I was trained in schools growing up in my country, and it's the same for you, then it's not my fault if I'm like this. It's not your fault. It's just the way we are, it's just our culture. So it reframes this idea of differences, because when we don't think of culture, naturally we fall back to personality and competence. So one of my colleagues, she did a research, she interviewed leaders from 60 countries, I think, and she found that she asked them to analyze some cross-cultural conflicts. She found that when people do not recognize culture, they naturally attribute the differences in communication and in behavior to professionalism. And they would judge people and say, oh, you're not professional. There's something wrong with their personality. When reality is the culture. So I can give you an example. In my classes, I have students from India and I have students from Japan. And these are two cultures that have very different ways to communicate. Now, my students, they are very high level. They are very motivated, they are mid-career professional going for an MBA. So these are very good students, very professional people, very driven. But at the beginning, when they start working with each other, the Japanese students and the Indian students, they have a lot of friction. The way, their group discussion looks a bit like this. The Indian students will start talking and they talk and they talk and they talk and they talk and they share all ideas. And the Japanese students are just sitting there. Now, I've come to learn that for the Indian students, you show your engagement and your professionalism by displaying passion and sharing a lot of ideas, right? If you don't do this, it means you don't care. But in those students, they care a lot, right? Now, for the Japanese, it's very different. In Japan, what's really important is social cohesion, harmony, and respect. And the way Japanese show respect is by listening very carefully to everything the other person has to say. And I like to say that they don't just listen to what the other person has to say. They also listen after the person has done talking to make sure that they really have nothing else to say. So you can imagine the Indian students talking and talking and talking and talking with no interruption for the Japanese students, because the Japanese students are just waiting for their turn to come. And their turn never comes. Now, these students, they walk away from this early discussion. The Indian think the Japanese are disengaged and they're starting to worry about having to do a group project with these students who are already free riding and taking advantage of others, right? These are the kind of thoughts that they have. And the Japanese are walking away feeling that those Indians, they are so rude and arrogant and they are disrespectful and they don't care about us. So, and of course, eventually at one point, these lead to these people are unprofessional because their idea of professionalism is tied to the culture, to the behaviors that they have seen in their workplace, you know, in their past experience, which is profoundly influenced by their cultural rules. So in my class, because they take my class at the very beginning of their program, we talk about culture and we talk about these things. And for them, suddenly it shifts completely the dynamic because they realize that it's not that the other person is unprofessional or uncaring or disengaged. It's just that they follow different cultural rules. And these rules influence the idea of what is professional behavior. So now they have a neutral ground when they can start understanding each other. Now they can talk. They can say, hey, you know, is it like this? Is this how you do it in your culture? So back to this idea of patience, where we associate behavior to, you know, being professional or unprofessional, or your personality is like this and like that. We have low tolerance for, you know, things that are different from what we appreciate or value. So patience is low. When we start talking, okay, maybe there's something to do with the culture, the upbringing, the past experience, then it gives us a little bit more space for patience and a room for understanding. And I just want to add one last point about culture. You know, here I talk a lot about national culture, but if you work with people who have had experience in different kind of organizations, you know, different industries, you also see those differences because organizations or industries have their own way of approaching tasks, of communicating. And when people change companies, they go there with their baggage, right? With their past experience. So it's also a form of cultural upbringing that will also influence the relationship between people. Yeah.
Okay, so I think, yeah, we are just on the nick of time. And we have a situation. We'll move on to the next, not with you, Dr. Catherine. It was all wonderful. We will move on to the next segment, but there is a bit of a change. We are being agile because our panelist Leo has a personal emergency and he's driving. He will be back. He'll be soon be online. So we will have Eddie coming in before the panel discussion, if that works for everyone. So would we move on to Eddie then, Grace? Grace, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Priya.
Yeah.
Hi, Ari. Sincere apologies, everyone, panel members. We're trying to be agile here. Ari loves. It's great to have the co-author of the Agile Manifesto with us. One of our panel members is unfortunately at this point driving, and we think we should bring on Ari to take on the next panel, keynote address for this conference. Well, it's my delight, it's an honor to have the co-author of the Agile Manifesto with us. His name is Ari van Bennekom. I'm sure a number of you know Ari, and it's such an honor to have him on the conference. Ari He's the co-author of the Agile Manifesto, like I said. He's a thought leader at We Humanity Group and through Agile. Ari believes that it is in the people that makes the difference over and over again when people struggle to make Agile successful. In 1994, he made this change coming from a very traditional environment as a developer and technical designer. He switched to RAD and later DSDM, and then he got involved in communities. He started publishing, training, and coaching, and later he got on the board of the DSDM consortium, Benelux, and he represented DSDM when he, along with others, wrote the Agile Manifesto, right? And so it took a lot for us to get Ari here. Unfortunately for us, he also become our partner through the Agnostic Agile community. It's such an honor to have you, like I said, and he will be taking on the next keynote for us. So welcome everybody. Please make welcome Ari van Bennekom. It will be good if you just give him a virtual welcome. Thank you, Ari.
Yeah, thank you, Grace. It's so funny, right? When you see all those hands on screen, or you see people on mute doing like this. It's the world that we live in today, right? Yeah, so today I want to talk with you about leadership and leadership, as we agreed, Priya and Grace and I, on, you know, future-proof leadership. And the question is, okay, what is future-proof leadership? It's an interesting one, right? Because if you're you know, as a leader, if you are future-proof, what does it mean? What does it take? Where does it come from? And I want to take you back to, you know, the mid-90s, right? Because yes, I'm one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto, but we wrote the manifesto 22 years ago, in February 2001, and already, in my case, 7 years before that, I started to work differently. I had a very conscious choice, you know, being part of a governmental project as an IT consultant, a technical designer, Grace, as you just mentioned. And it was run in the very traditional way, you know, the waterfall way. I don't know if you're familiar with that expression, the waterfall way of running projects. And we were with 30 people, 7 months full-time working. And then the project was stopped. And I mean, stopped and never started again. And I made a decision because I came into the, you know, the client's office, which was the Dutch IRS, the tax office, like, I don't know, 8 in the morning or something. And it was 10. I said, do you have time for a meeting? Because we're meeting with the whole team. So 30 people in the big room. The project manager was there, the only internal. And he said, oh yeah, the project is stopped. And literally 15 minutes later, everybody was out. Everybody, because they were all externals. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do here? What just happened? And I thought, obviously, you know, if you make the calculation, a couple of million has been, you know, dollars or euros or whatever you use as a currency were wasted, absolutely wasted. And I thought, do I want to be part of this? And I thought, no, I don't want to be part of this. I feel deeply ashamed that I was part of it, and I don't want it to happen again. So I went to the office, and I said then to, you know, we had like, it was a group of 60 people, maybe like 6 managers, and I was able to speak to 5 of them before lunch. And I said, you know, whatever I'm going to do, I'm not going to do this again. And I thought, you know, if they fire me, I'll find a solution, but this is not what I want to be responsible for, you know, not on public money, but also, you know, if I go to a for-profit organization, if I step in and I send an invoice at the end of the week or at the end of the month, I want to be able to say, you know, this is what it cost, but this is what it brought. I want to have, you know, that kind of idea that I bring value. And I started experimenting in a different way. They didn't fire me, by the way. So I started experimenting. Grace, you mentioned rapid application development, and it was about prototyping and time boxing and stakeholder collaboration, all these kind of things. Very natural for me. It felt very natural. And then in the beginning, let's say in the late 90s, when I was doing a talk or a masterclass or something like this, I would always say, oh, you know, there's always change, right? You cannot, sometimes you can read it on the media, change is the only constant factor we have in life, right? So, and what you see, and we talked today about leadership, in my opinion, this is how I define it. Managers, they manage the status quo as it is. And I don't think at that time, and today, absolutely for sure not, you cannot manage a situation on governmental level, on organizational level, on, you have to understand, you need vision, and you need to lead your team, your people towards, what's going on, because along the way, for sure, change will happen, and people will look at you, and you have to be able to have that vision, you have to be able to express that vision, and you have to be able to lead and to make it, into the granular details, so that as an organization, when we can keep up with what's happening. Until, let's say, 3.5 years ago, I would have told you, oh, technology, right? The pace of innovation is so high, and it will never slow down. It will only speed up more. So that change in technology is not only improving the way you work, changing the way you work, but what technology specifically does is these days disrupting business models, complete business models. I mean, the introduction of Uber disrupted the entire taxi market in the Netherlands. The introduction of WhatsApp ruined the top 3 telecommunication providers in the Netherlands within 3 months, on the edge of bankruptcy. They barely survived. So the tech was one. But in the opening, Professor Wu was talking about, do you know people in Turkey? Do you know people in the Ukraine? I do know people in Turkey, obviously, that have been impacted. But I would even say on the level of close friends or good acquaintances that I, because of my work, met in Kiev, in the Ukraine. What's going on there, and we had COVID coming in. I mean, if you just look at the way, at least in the Netherlands, and I think it's in most of the world, that new medication can come into the market. That's a process of years, and of course, rules had to be broken, right? But if you break rules, you have to be able to explain it. You have to lead by example. You have to break the rules because you may be in a position as a prime minister or as a board level member, right? So you need to understand that next to the technology, yes, it's changing. A lot of things happen, and it changes business models, disrupts business models, open opportunities for new business models, but also the geopolitical stuff that is been going on, of course, already for years, but now very explicit in Europe when it comes to the Ukraine war. And then we have the environmental issues in the Netherlands. Building new houses have come to almost a complete standstill because we have to apply to European rules. How do we do this, right? And that's the big thing. And I think it's my strong idea that if you work in a governmental organization, a for-profit organization, a not-for-profit organization, and you are in these, today's dynamics, if you want to make your organization future-proof, you need to be yourself future-proof. And that's a very simple one. And it starts with the acceptance of the fact that we have an expression in Dutch. I don't know if it's in your language as well, but standing still means getting behind. I mean, just picture a game, athletics, people running. The one who stands still will get behind. And even though that person might think, I'm okay, I'm alive, I'm doing okay, you're getting behind. And that's the world that we live in today. So when it comes to leadership, when it comes to being future-proof as an organization, which requires future-proof leadership, you need people really to guide and to help. And that's a very important part, as where I come from, right? Where I start from. And yes, 25 years, it was already, 25 years ago, it was already there. Now it's, flat in your face every single day. I wake up most of the time between 6 and 6:30 in the morning, still in bed. I take my phone and I start reading 3 newspapers and the BBC. And all the same, excuse my French, the same shit comes over you, right? And you see all the horrors that take place in the world. And you can see things that you think, okay, this requires change. We need to adapt as a business. We need to adapt as a government. We need to adapt as a person. And that is us, right? And when it comes to, you can say, you need to adapt to be able to survive. And then maybe to survive, you can put between quotes, But in the COVID times, that was not so much about quotes. That was the real thing. And when you're in the Ukraine, it's the real thing. You have to adapt, and you have to leave behind what has been with you. You have to take action, and action means most of the time that you take deep change. And what we try to do is a little bit polishing on the outside. That's what we try to do. But we have to make that change deep down there. And that's a difficult one because, number one, people don't like change. And we all know this, right? What, 95% or more of the people don't like change. And I always, I'm not an anthropologist and I'm not a biologist, but I like watching documentaries, and especially Dr. Attenborough, or those kind of beautiful nature documentaries. And you see a crocodile on the river Nile, lying on the riverbanks. You know what the crocodile does when he's on the riverbank? Nothing. He breathes. He survives. And that little reptile brain tells him, I'm good here. I'm safe here. I mean, this species survived for 650 million years, right? They know if I don't have to move, I won't move. Because if I move, I change my situation where I am, and you never know where I'm going to get, right? So I only move I have to, if I want some food or that kind of thing. And that's something that we need to, people don't like change. And, being in Agile, my hardcore work is Agile transformations. And then I meet the Agile coaches and they say, oh, I'm going to change an organization. I'm going to change people. Well, take a beer or a wine or a whiskey or a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, sit down and think about yourself, because you will not be able to change somebody else, period. You can force people to do other stuff. You can force them. But the moment that the force is gone, they will go back to what they want to do, what they feel is like okay or good, or where they feel, here we go, safe, right? So we need to find a way to help people to make steps, because 95% or more of the people don't like change. But no, in the world where we are, COVID, geopolitical, technology, whatever is going on, people need to change. You need to do things. So my father passed away, it's almost 5 years ago, and he was struggling in his last years of his life to keep up with technology. And that's what for us would be the very baseline of technology, like doing bank payments and that kind of stuff. And he would still write, the payments on a piece of paper and throw them in the letterbox at the back. And he could at that moment in time. But there will be moments where you say, okay, the way I did just doesn't work anymore, period, right? So we need to understand that we have to get away from it. Now, the point is, if we focus on people in their change, they don't like change, we told this, but also people have paradigms. Every one of us, we have our own set of paradigms. And paradigms are defining your habits. They are defining your reflexes. They are defining your capability to understand if you have to change, what kind of change it could be, and if you're able to make it, if you feel safe to make it, right? A paradigm shift is most likely the most difficult change that people can go through, and where the world that we live in today, continuously we have to go through that paradigm shift. Whether you do an agile transformation or any other kind of change, you need to understand the paradigms that we have are continuously changing, right? And how can we keep up? The paradigms are deeply rooted and deeper than we think. I got a question 2 days ago from someone said, oh yeah, Ari, but that change is for older people more difficult than for younger people, right? I said, yeah, well, I think generically you could say yes, because if you are younger, the time that the paradigms were in your life has been shorter, so they are not as deeply rooted with old guys like me, when you're 58 or something. But at the same time, I see those young students coming out of university, and they have been brainwashed by professors with old paradigms. And they just can't comprehend it can be done in a different way, right? That's what we need to understand. Education is a difficult one. Bureaucracy is difficult. Now, bureaucracy is also something else, because bureaucracy contains institutionalized paradigms. You know, we have a paradigm, oh, life is more or less like this, but then in the bureaucracy, it's written down in processes and in habits and in rules, etc. And those are difficult. I want to give you a metaphor. My girlfriend is from, she's on the other side of the living. My girlfriend is from South Africa, Johannesburg. And I don't want to offend anybody here in the session today, but they drive on the wrong side of the road. You know, I'm from the Netherlands. We drive on the right side of the road, right? So if somebody else drives on the other side, that must be the wrong side of the road, right? So, okay. So, and now serious again. So I get, you know, we are dating for almost 3.5 years. And I remember in January 2020, I went for my first trip. I was there before for work, but, you know, to stay with her for a while at home. So you get into the car, right? And you go to what? To get the groceries or something like this. And I walk into the parking and there is a car. And I recognize it's a car. You know, front end, 4 wheels, roof. It's a car. But you get in and the steering wheel is on the other side. Well, okay, you can overcome this, right? Then she was driving, of course. And we got into the car and we get to the first crossing. And I asked her, I said, you know, can you tell me how it works in terms of, you know, give way and the preference, who is and she said, oh, it's very simple. The one who comes first at the crossing has preference. And I thought, oh, you should try that in Amsterdam. I can tell you, it's not going to work. In Johannesburg, already for the last couple of years, they have load shedding, right? Moments during the day, blocks of hours where there is no power. So very often you're in a street where the traffic lights don't work. Everybody applies this rule and it works. It works. Brilliant, right? That's a paradigm because everybody does it instinctively, right? Now, I look at this. So the rules are different. Not all of them, but there are rules that are different. Then I have signs. And a lot of signs look the same, but you know, last time I said, what does that one mean? I said, oh, you know, that's so and so. Okay, different from ours. So now here I have, the car is a little bit different. The rules are not the same. The signs are not the same. Now I can go to a class, right? So Adi goes to a driving class and they tell me how it works. And you get the PowerPoints and everything else. Awesome. But the moment that I am behind the wheels, everything in my brain has to be different. And when I'm alone on the street in Johannesburg, it's okay because I can drive slowly. I can really think about everything that I do, and I go there and I get there. Problem in Johannesburg traffic, you're never alone. You are never alone. And also, those people will do things that I don't expect. What happens when people do things that you don't expect? Your habits come in. And if it's really a serious situation, your reflexes come in. And this is the problem, because my habits and my reflexes are based on driving on the right side of the road, not on the left side of the road. Don't sit next to me in Johannesburg traffic, please, when I'm behind the wheel. Stay on the safe side, right? Now, coming back to how does it work, right? You're in an organization, you're in a country. One of the things that I don't like about the government here in the Netherlands is already for, I would say, 10, 12 years, I miss the visionary part. I miss the vision. I miss the idea where are we going. They are managing the country. Literally, they are managing the country. Managing means that you keep the people where they are. You stand still. So what you need from what future-proof organizations need is the type of leadership that has 3 very elementary characteristics. Let me put it like this. Number 1, when you want something different from your organization, from your people, even if you're a prime minister in a country, you're a role model. People will look at you. You have to walk your talk. Number 1. So that means you have to be open to change. You have to be open to, okay, now the situation is different, so I can't do what I always did. I have to do something different. And also in that step, accepting that if you do something for the first time, you make mistakes. It's very simple. You know, if we do agile transformations, you know, managers always think I sent somebody to a 2-day training and now we are agile. No, that's just about the rules of the game. Now the habits have to grow, the reflexes have to grow, and you have to allow in building a set of new habits and building a new set of reflexes. It means that you allow people to make mistakes. You know, you cannot switch from soccer to hockey, and then expecting if you have the national champion of soccer and now we're going to play hockey, that next year there will be the national champion in hockey. No, you know, you're already lucky if they get there, right? So number one, you need to be the role model, because that role model is very important, because if you give people something new, they will respond to something new. If you give people old behavior, they will come back in old behavior, right? Number one, you're the role model. The second one is you need to facilitate that change on any level, here at home, in the government, in The Hague, in an organization on the board. There will be changes that are, let's keep it on the country level. You have changes that are not according to the law. So the law has to be changed given the new situation, coming back, for example, to COVID vaccination and the speed of introduction of the vaccine to the market. You know, you need to change that. So one, you need to be the role model. Two, you need to facilitate change. And then number three, you need to sustain change. And that's a difficult one. I want to give you a concept that I see everywhere I go, and it's called innovating backward. Right? We go into that 2-day agile masterclass. And at the end of the 2 days, you think, you know, I know everything about agile. I can do this. But then you go back to real life, you know, Joburg traffic. You go back and, you know, things happen because those people have not been to that masterclass of yours. So they don't know. And what will happen is you're trying to do something in a new way that you're not experienced. You went to a bloody 2-day masterclass. That's what you did, nothing else, right? So you need to understand, I don't have the solutions for that new way of working. But what people do is they try it. It doesn't work, of course, because you make mistakes, right? You make mistakes like I make a traffic in Johannesburg. And what then happens is people will look into their brain, and you know what's in their brain? Old solutions, old habits, old reflexes. So we bring change and then we innovate backward, right? And that's very important to understand, that you have to get away from that innovating backward. You have to understand, this is most likely what I will do. You know, you try something for the first time and you think, yeah, but the moment that you think or somebody says, yeah, but, that's an old paradigm tapping on the shoulder. Because you can't comprehend it can be done in a different way. Right? So it's very important that you get into a cycle of, you know, okay, we're going to do something new. And for example, the whole, you know, the vaccine introduction in COVID, the mistakes were made there on the organizational level, you know, the logistics, but it improved along the way. So you have to do it. You have to learn from it. You have to improve it. And then you go back again. And that's a continuous cycle. And you have to go to a place where you have not been before, because there is change. You can't go back to the old situation. You have to go to a place where you have not been before. So now it comes, people need guidance. People need support. Support is, okay, I can make a mistake. I can make errors without, you know, my head chopped off. That's very important. And that whole thing of learning, how can you get there? And I always say, when you come to any kind of change, and of course, my change is very often coming from the fact that I have, you know, I do know like agile transformations for about 15 years or so. But when you want to go into a new way, the first one is you need to be strict for yourself. Because at Ari, the worst one in my work, we do hybrid. Okay, so you're on a diet when it comes to your breakfast, your lunch, and your dinner, but in between you still eat candy, something like this, right? It doesn't work this way. You have to be strict to yourself. And also, you have to understand that you don't have the answers because it's something new. So it's not a problem that you look for answers somebody else. So somebody will come, a coach, a good coach. Good coaches are rare, by the way. But a good coach, and then you need that support from that leadership. That's very important. That leadership team needs to understand, okay, you know, I have a team here and the team can be 8 people, the can be 80 people, it can be a whole organization or a department. They are going to do something different because change is the only constant factor that we have. So how can I help them, you know, as a leadership team or a member of a leadership team, how can I help them? And I think the best thing that you can do is be strict, offer guidance, and accept that we make mistakes. And even if we stand still, we make mistakes already, right? All the time, we know about this. But you need to understand that this is very important, you know, to get there. You need to accept mistakes and have that support and have that guidance. The role model, however, is for me, when it comes to future-proof leadership, the one that is the most important. You have to walk your talk, because the moment you talk one way and you do the other way, people will not respect you anymore. And this is when you are no longer a leader. That's where you at the most become a manager, right? Because you're in the hierarchy above them, you know, so, okay, you know, I'll do what you say. But the moment that you're really leading by vision and by the good attitude towards the people that are in that change as well, in that continuously changing environment, you know, they will follow. And I think that's what leadership is all about, you know, that people follow you. As the closure of my talk, I want to share something with you. It's like 2009, I guess it was. I had the privilege of being at the table with Mr. Kofi Annan for an hour and a half or so, with 4 other people, and we were having this very beautiful conversation. And at the end of the conversation, at the time, you know, my children were like 14 and 18 or something, or 13 and 17, I don't know. And I said to him, you know, human rights, and, you know, there are countries that are banned. I think at the time Myanmar was banned, for example. What if my sons have an opportunity to help the people in Myanmar? What do you think? Now, this man is born and raised in politics, right? So I got a very political answer, but also I think a very good one. He said, Ari, you have to tell your sons that change always starts with one person. And that's you, yourself. And what we tend to do is we tend to blame others, our team members, the management, the leadership team, the culture, the bureaucracy. And it's not about what's hindering you, but it's about what can I do myself? Because I am convinced, and I think this is also where it started for me. I didn't want to work that way anymore. I thought I have to go in a different way. And I didn't know what it was, where to go. And I found my way, and things happened. And eventually, and I think also the time was right, but that Agile Manifesto that we wrote has been very dominant because of the reasons that I gave you. Change has been a fact of life forever, but the pace of change is only going up and will never slow down. Coming back to Mr. Annan and saying, okay, you know, change always starts with one person. And you look at yourself. I always say you're the architect of your own life. You have 3 options. Number 1, if something is there and you don't like it, you accept it. Option 2 is you leave. And option 3 is you change. Complaining doesn't help. Okay, you can complain for 5 minutes, then shut up and do something. Right? Take one of the 3 and take your responsibility, because you're the architect of your own life. Thank you very much.
Wow. Please give some wave, give some wave, give some wave. If you really love Dr. Wu and Ari Van Bennekom, please give a wave. Give a wave.
Yeah, I see the comment from Mr. Lambert. He says, that's not the way we do it here. It's like, yeah, exactly. No, but it's going to be the way we do it here. And
yeah.
I travel to work by car or by train, not on a horse.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Wow. Such electrifying, you know, keynote speeches from our keynote speakers. Thank you so much, Ari. It's such, we are beyond honored to have you, to have Dr. Wu actually come to talk to us on this really important topics, things of the now, the reemergence. How do we cope in this new world that we find ourselves? How do we cope in this very volatile, uncertain, complex, and very ambiguous kind of work environment we find ourselves? How do we cope working with global teams, and how do we reemerge as leaders? Thank you for talking to women. Thank you for talking to men. Thank you for talking to everybody here. We really appreciate, would love to hand this over to you. It's a certificate of appreciation for coming to talk to us. No amount of dollar, we couldn't have really paid you for this. Thank you. And Ari and Dr. Wu really did this for free because our events are for free. Thank you so much. I think, please, again, give a wave. If you go back to listen to the recording again, give a wave, give a wave. Thank you so much, Ari. Okay, I'll be handing over to a very, very lovely Linda and Mariana to take on the next session of this conference, and it will be a panel discussion. Again, apologies to our panelists, and we really love you, and thank you for standing by and waiting till after the second keynote speech to have your session. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you very much, and warm welcome from my side again. So yes, I think all 4 panelists are already here. And so yes, we will have our panel discussion on the topic Restart and Re-emerge as a Leader, Insights to Restarting, Revamping and Starting a New Career. And how often have we asked ourselves if we are on the right track in our career, or whether we have achieved everything we wanted to achieve so far. And maybe there are other opportunities for us to develop and to dive deeper in some other opportunities. So in a rapidly changing world of work, it's more important than ever to address these questions and prepare for possible changes. And this is the topic of our panel discussion today. So we have invited a group of inspiring personalities to share their knowledge and their experiences and their opinions on some topics about to prepare a career plan B, and how to use experience from our previous career to come back strong in our second career, and how to keep reinventing ourselves to future-proof our career. So we look forward to hearing the perspectives and insights of our panelists, who will briefly introduce themselves in a moment. And our 4 panelists today are Deepika, Adriana, Leonardo, and Peter. So much from my side. So it would be great if Deepika could introduce herself now.
A very good
apologies.
morning, afternoon,
Yeah.
evening. Hi, Grace. You want to say something?
And just wanted to really correct myself. Apologies, Linda. Apologies, everybody. I think it's Linda and Olufunke will be taking the session. Thank you. Apologies.
So, hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure noting everybody's participation and some wonderful previous guests who came and gave a lot of knowledge to us. I'm Deepika Trehan. I'm based out of India, Bangalore, and I run a women leadership development organization, pretty much addressing to the professional life cycle of a woman at work, right from university classrooms, getting women corporate ready, to emerging women leaders, to segueing senior women leaders into the boardroom, and also addressing to women who are on a career comeback, as well as budding entrepreneurs. We provide support and upskilling needs for the entire professional life cycle, because I think statistics are bang on there, right in front of us, glaring hard into the eyes, saying that we need more women in top leadership positions. And that's what me and my organization facilitate for organizations and women across the globe. Lovely to be here.
Thank you very much for your brief introduction. So Adriana, can you please go on with a few words about yourself?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night for everybody, good evening. I am Adriana Sibeli, I'm from Argentina. I am a woman engineer, as I said yesterday in my little record. I've been working during more than 20 years in projects. And now I am part of the women leadership community of Capítulo Chapter Buenos Aires, PMI Buenos Aires chapter. And last year, I was the leader of Latin American women leaders community that belongs to Nuevo Cuyo, Argentina PMI chapter. So I'm I've been working in very technical issues during my whole time, but now I changed my career and I am working, leading projects, helping others. I am a consultant and I work helping others to reach their goals. This topic of remerge and restarts is very familiar for me. I've been restarting and remerging many times during my whole life, my whole professional and personal too, also life. So glad to be here, and it's a honor being part of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So our third panelist is Leonardo, who is here right now, and I'm looking forward to your introduction.
Thank you, Linda. Hi all, greetings from Barcelona, Spain. Apologize for missing the first part, but as community, as local community, water is helping us to present, as a team, as a global team. Okay. First of all, I want to say congratulations all the panelists, great colleagues from all the globe. Obviously, all the Priya and the rest of the team, Linda for introduction. Everybody is doing a wonderful job, a wonderful initiative like this, because now more than ever we need this kind of initiatives to be together are strongest. So thank you very much for that. I'm from Mexico originally, but I'm living in Spain from the last 20 years in Barcelona, well, in other cities. I found the PM officers as a global community with a very similar idea like this, but trying to helping each other, obviously, about PMO and beyond, no? Project management office, product management office, any kind of office, because the 99% in all global organizations have a portfolio of projects or products all together. It doesn't matter, but everybody is ruling a project or products. We are in a digital age. That's why I try to found this, and we are trying to share many concepts by free. Now, many people is following us around the globe. This is our first main title objective pillar. And after more than 25 years, I started to work very young. I studied in how can I translation in computer engineering system, something like this, because it was from past century. These very different titles instead of current times, but more or less. And I started in project management from the past century. Imagine, I started very young, only when 20 years. I said studying and working at the same time. So after that, I'm trying to keep learning as nomad people. It's not from the current times. No. Always we need to every day try to learn something else, something new, or maybe update our current skills, our current knowledge. Remember, the information is power, but knowledge is the superpower. So the information is by free. We have everything. Anyone with a cellular or mobile phone, we have access to information. It's by free and it's cheap and easy. Anyone, anywhere, any place, anytime. But the knowledge is when we are worried to know much things about any specific topics. That's why we are trying to sharing with the global community in PM offices. This is what we are sharing. So thank you for this invitation. I don't want to spend more time about this because we love to be here. We love to be part of this. Very small piece of into the machinery. We are very small piece of this. But a Switzerland watch, this is the best. Without one only small piece is not fixed, is not perfectly functionally, the biggest or the highest or the most expensive watch is not working. That's why all together we need each other, and all together we can create. We are creating a better world in a profession, with our families, in our countries, with our communities. In this case, about women power up. I have something like this. I have the T-shirt because I'm married. I have my mother. I have a wife. I have a daughter. So the women spirit and the strong is with me day every day. That's why I love everything you do as women around the globe for doing a better work. We need you as men. We need you. Wonderful. Really, thank you very much for that. And keep going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, we have Peter, who will probably not stay the whole time, but for a couple of minutes. And that's great that he is still here. So please, see what's about you.
Sure, that was a great introduction. He's not going to stay long. Hey, I'm Peter. I'm a coach. I'm executive coach. I'm organizational coach, and I do lots of work with what Ari explained, changing the paradigms and helping really ambitious companies stay in the new ones. So basically my team's passion is building these people first organizational cultures. This is not why I'm here. Why I'm probably here is because I've had to reset my career 3 times over completely, basically, and also overcome personal challenges along the way, relocate, continent, move, from Slovenia to Australia, back to Slovenia. So yeah, I'm, happy to share some of those insights, for anyone that's feeling anxious or thinking about changing and resetting and thinking about the new career. Yeah, I've learned some great things from the failures and wins, and I'm happy to share those in this today's panel.
Thank you very much. So let's start with our discussion, I would say.
All right. Thank you so much, Lillian, and thank you for holding on, all of our panelists. Great to have you all here. And once again, my name is Olufunke Adio. I will just dive into our questions for our panelists today. The very first question I have is for Adriana. It's quite interesting how this question suits you so perfectly, considering you've been in and out of careers. Yes. So my first question to you would be, what do we expect from a career? And what really could go wrong? What do we expect from a career? And what could go wrong? I mean, talk to us from the standpoint of your experiences, yeah?
Okay. So from our career, we expect a way of life, a kind of life you choose, but sometimes you do not choose the right career, no? Is it a common issue? But I think our careers defines us. They tell us how are we going to pass our life, in what way are we going to contribute to the community. I think the career is a mean to achieve our goals or to go for our goals. So, but sometimes black swans appear, no? Like the pandemic we just experienced, or any other thing that we didn't expect. So you have to be prepared or you have to know that many things can go wrong when you choose your career and when you are going through it towards your goal. In my own experience, I choose the right one. I'm very happy, and I enjoy a lot of engineering, electronic engineering. I specialized in building automation, and I love it a lot. But I have to tell you that when I went to university, I wanted to be a biomedical engineer. Nothing to do with automatic control than I chose then afterwards. So why? Because things are in your plans very different from they are in reality. So I think that many things can change from the design to the actual implementation, and that's the why we change careers. No, what things can go wrong? Not everything is wrong, but sometimes are different. So I think that many times you choose the career that is not the appropriate to this, for this time, this moment, this place, and so you have to make a decision. Am I persisting in this career, or am I to change the career and take the opportunities that are appearing, are getting to the surface? So I think, concluding, I think that the career is what you think is bringing you happiness and fulfillment, that will let you achieve your goals, but not always is like you think, and that things are what can go wrong. And so I think many things can go wrong, but you have alternative ways to get to your love, to your goals, to your target, to your objectives.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Adriana.
Thank you.
What I hear you say, and I think which is quite apt, instructive, if I may even say, is how it's not all the times we look at things as going wrong, but it could be a case of having a right career at the right time. That was what you said, right?
Yes, I said that.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for speaking to that.
Thank you.
Linda, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. So now that we know that it can go wrong anytime, and if you're not happy with your career, so we can go on with our second question, which is on top. So how can we have a career plan B? How can we proceed with our plan B in our career? So maybe Deepika, you want to say something about that?
Sure, and I think that's a very valid question, because as much as I've heard, somebody quote that if you have a plan B, you aren't focused enough, I somewhere disagree with that, because I believe sometimes life happens when you're busy planning it. And therefore, a plan B becomes a necessity. It's imperative. What in my experience and the way my career trajectory went as well, is that my plan B it happened. It wasn't mindful. But what I would advise the audience is that be mindful about your career path, about your journey. You will get snippets on which you can hold on to as a plan B for things that may, in your career growth may not go your way. I'll give you an example. When so I within a week of getting married here in India, we moved to South Africa, and I was new to the place, and work visas were yet to be sorted, and a running professional completely out of professional life. So I kind of took up things, went to the Indian embassy, and I kind of reached out to them that here are my set of skills. And if anything comes handy, just let me know because I'm new to the country. And then we started interacting with the people of the Indian embassy there and, started networking. And then came an opportunity on fundraising. Now, coming from an HR training and development background, I really didn't have much exposure on fundraising. But then being there and being open to learning more, I took up the project on fundraising and learned a lot in the process. How that tied in as a plan B was from South Africa, we went to Moscow. And I think after 5 years in Moscow is when we relocated back to India. And that was that was the biggest button of my career restart, when we got back to India. And I realized that when I was building my profile, I did mention fundraising as one of the elements that I bring to the table. And that element got me a job, or rather a project, with one of the biggest organizations here in India, which is the Tata Group. So what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes you are mindful enough that, all right, let me just focus on this part of my profession, but have a plan B in mind. However, be mindful about the process and identify elements that could be your anchor as a plan B, which happened in my case. I totally believe to have the plan B in place. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe Leo wants to add something to this question.
Thank you, Linda. Well, it's a very good question, but very difficult as well, because in the current times, to do or to plan or to have a plan B is a question that many people cannot reply, cannot answer by themselves, because many people is working, perhaps, I don't know, but perhaps is working or have a job. They don't like it, but they need to pay the invoices. They need to take money for home, no? And they would love to do another thing, anything else, to maybe to have a better job within the company or maybe outside in another company. There is so many situations, but I will share this question for all our audience. What is the best that you can do? No, I'm not saying what is the most thing do you like to do. No. Which is the best thing that you are able to do? If you develop this topic because you love it, you can become the best in this specific topic. And at the same time, while you are working right now, we are developing the best things or the best topic that you can develop, that you can do, and you will enjoy this path. This journey you are going to enjoy while you are working in maybe another thing that you don't like very much. But when you be ready, maybe you make business, maybe you can have a job and turning on make a switch, becoming the plan B into plan A. So what it happened, or what's my vision? So first, you are going to do the best you can do. You are going to love what you do, and you are going to make money for now and maybe more money for you. That all the circle will be complete for you, and never ever in the future will be a plan B, because you are going to be in a positive cycle, and you can become an inspiration for the rest of people that maybe they are still looking for which is the best thing that you do. Because you can become the best. It doesn't matter what are you doing or what do you want to do. It doesn't matter, whatever, but you can become the best. And the best people, it feels and internally a happy person. And that's you can close the cycle. This is my point of view that I'm trying to do in my life.
That's really impressive and really Yes, a really good process, I think so. So yes, I hand over again to Olufunka for the next question.
Amazing, thank you, Linda. Powerful responses there from Deepika and Leo. I want to come back to you again, Deepika, and then just taking a cue from what you had mentioned in your response just a while ago, how the experiences you garnered from being a fundraiser was valuable for you at Tata. My question to you would be, how do you leverage experience of previous career track to reemerge stronger in a second career? Yeah? Did you get that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing.
Well, I think every experience, big or small, teaches you something, whether it be in active career, whether it be in your social ecosystem, your professional ecosystem, or life per se. So the way I've been an open learner all my life. You know, be it in active profession or be it in times of sabbatical. But what I realize is that all your experiences that you gather, often we people at large undervalue the importance of the process, undervalue the importance of the experience. We, at the start of the event, we had a beautiful presentation on cultural intelligence. And I can tell you that cultural intelligence was also one of the experience of my professional journey while being in South Africa. And one didn't realize the importance of the sensitization that was happening back then, because as time moved on and as decades moved on and work happened as usual, and our organization was a lot into face-to-face offline coaching and development. But then the pandemic happened, COVID happened, and we all had to pivot online. And when we pivoted online, we realized that our first global clients who wanted us to put up a learning cohort for them were from South Africa. And therefore, breaking the cultural barrier, having conversations, understanding their cultural makeup was so much more easier vis-a-vis if the exposure or the experience hadn't happened. So, and therefore, to answer your question, Olufunke, that you know, every experience will teach you something. It all comes back to one is trusting the process and taking experiences as learnings, not only just in your professional and career path, but also in life per se.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Deepika. The phrase or the sentence that you keep coming back to, every experience will teach you something. To me, I feel like it should actually be a life's philosophy. It should be something that you should put in a plaque and put it, you know, somewhere visible. It's powerful, amazing. Thank you so much. Linda, back to you.
Thank you. So I have a question for Peter. You have told us at the beginning that you have restarted your career several times and you moved to different countries and back and again to a different country. And so I wanted to ask you, how did you do that? And why did you start your career new? And do you recommend to switch careers multiple times during one working life?
If I recommend, I'm not sure about that. I'm just thinking about, you know, all the things everyone said. And one thing that keeps coming back to my mind is we as species, I think when we are thrown into something, we'll just survive somehow. So, and that is obviously one of the learnings that I had, right? And, you know, re-emerging then and thinking about how can this help me and so on, all this really works really well if we want to re-emerge better. But one thing that really keeps going back to my mind, and it's connected to what you just asked, right? Why did you change and so on so many times? I think this is the one question that we don't ask ourselves too deep or enough times. And really diving back deep into ourselves and asking ourselves, why is it that I feel anxious about this situation today? What it is that makes me feel restless? You know, why do I want something else? And what is that? So what is it that I really want? That's the questions coaches always pose right in the beginning, right? What it is that you really want. And the answer is not lying basically in oh, I'm not really happy here. I'm not really, this and this. My boss is toxic. Yes, these are all some reasons, but really the depth of the answer and the core of should I change goes back to the question, what it is that I really want. So removing the others from that equation of the answer, going back down deep into yourself and thinking about your values and asking that 5 whys, why? Just ask yourself, why do I want this? What will be different, right? And so on. So that's one thing I think we don't do enough. And if I look back into my transitions, it would be so worthwhile to have that question basically thrown into myself, let's say by a coach or someone else. I didn't ask myself enough on that. Why is it that I really want? Because why do I want to change? What it is that I really want? Because I think we always have options, right? And that can mean, I might be wanting something, but I can basically stay in where I am, change something there. So I do not need to change my career. It's just something else that I need there, and go after that. Because brain is really, really powerful in saying, spotting danger and then making us run for our lives and go away from something which is not comfortable, where we're not comfortable. But this brain is playing tricks on us, our brain always. So what I'm trying to say is, if I probably wouldn't change my career 3 times over so drastically, even just leave the whole country because I thought that was the reason why I'm unhappy. If we just ask ourselves more, what it is that I really want, and then explore these different scenarios. How can I get this here or in this career? And also one thing that I really learned is basically whatever I'm restless about today in this career, that same restlessness is going to catch me in the next career as well. Because if it's not for the right reason, if I haven't changed for the right reason. So that is one thing that I learned, and goes back to our values and goes back to our thinking and goes back to our old paradigms, if you want. I wish I asked myself that many more times, what it is that I really want, and then answer it with 5 whys, and then really dig into the values, right? And then there comes the answer then, right? And if it's for the right reasons, then you will know. And then once you are on that, once you go through that door, in my opinion, then you can be anything you want to be.
Thank you so much for this deep insights. Adriana, do you want to add something to the whole stuff Peter just told us? Maybe you have a totally other opinion, or do you agree?
Okay, I say, why not changing career? No? If you are not more comfortable, yes, you can change your career, but we have to ask ourselves, why should we change our career? I say, okay, life means changes. Life is a continuous change process. So I wrote something Ari said, and he said, standing still means getting behind, and I do not want to be behind. And he said, I don't have to move, I want to move. And I think that's a reason of changing a career. We want to move forward. But I think that we have to train our ability to restart. We have to train our ability to reemerge in another career. It's not so easy. We have to know that it has a certain price. I don't know if it is the right word, but you have to pay something to change your career. It's not easy, but do not miss that you are going forward a goal. So if it implies changing the career, why not? So I think that you change your career because of a need for survival or a need to go forward, to grow, or to adapt to this changing world. Do not forget that we live in an ambiguous and rapidly changing world, very uncertain. And so if you make a long-term, you have a goal and you make a long-term strategy, maybe it doesn't work. I think that you have to have an objective, a goal, but you have to be conscious that maybe you'll have to design many middle-term strategies or short-term strategies to reach to the goal. And that's a reason because I've changed my career several times.
Okay, thank you so much. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Adriana, thank you so much for that. I want to re-echo what it is you said. We absolutely need to really want to move. We really have to want it, okay? It's something that has to really come from a decision that we make. And Peter, I appreciate your vulnerability, with talking about how you wish you had asked yourself the question, what do I really want? I think that was also powerful. Thank you. All right. Now, my next question would go to Leo. And the question I'm asking is, how can we reinvent ourselves always in order to future-proof our careers? How can we reinvent ourselves in order to future-proof our careers? Over to you, Leo.
Alunke, thank you for the questions. It's very hard to answer, but I think if we create the present, if we make the present, we are creating our future. So how can we do that? How can reinvent ourselves, remerge ourselves? First of all, in the future. So from my point of view, my experience, I'm trying to do every day, more or less, is developing the power skills for our point of view. What it means, power skills. The soft skills, okay, as empowerment, leadership, communication, critical thinking, resilience, proactivity, adaptability, problem solving. No, this is in the present, because we need to update every day, because we are talking in interaction with many people in many countries and many different cultures, depending, not all, but many of us, we are doing right now, or maybe in the near future. So we need to be ready for the near future. And by just to update and keep developing these soft skills. And by the other hand, the hard skills. This is the technical skills. And this is, yes, for the near future. So the question, what kind of technical skills we need to develop? No, everybody's asking about this. Well, there are so many technologies right now, okay? So many. But if we are thinking in the future, I'm just watching on the horizon 5. Blockchain is changing the world in many things, creating new jobs, creating new business, creating new opportunities for everyone, everywhere, anytime, any place. Data analysis for a better decision making. The data is the goal for C-level. So if we are able to manage tools with data analysis for explode information, wonderful. 3, robotic process automation for avoiding inefficient task, repetitive tasks. Take off. If we are available to do this, we are going to improve time and money for any organization. 4, machine learning. In the big companies, in the huge companies, they are managing so many data. But with this technology, we can help them for a predictive scenarios, for a better decision making. If we are able to to prepare these future scenarios, predictive, we can the cost of the money, we can help them for avoiding lost money, because if the C-level make a better decision, taking a better decisions making, they are avoiding to lose money. If they lose money, people have his job and maybe they can hire more people, no? And 5, and finally, artificial intelligence. Of course, it's not a mob. Yeah, this is an explosion. Everybody's listening every time, anywhere. All the time we are listening about this, watching in social media and so on. Yeah, that's correct. This is help. This technology can help us. Yes, like machine learning for predictive scenarios, but for the current scenarios, because we can have all the information that we need for a better decision making. So I think this is very important. If we can put our focus in as a plan B, for example, in a new career, as a plan B, if we trying to develop this kind of technologies for a better job in the near future. Just 2 fast example. A blockchain developer, I don't know how much money they are making, but I don't know, 90 or 100 per year annual salary, $1,000, for example. And in the near future, the metaverse, any organizations will have a metaverse. Imagine the chief metaverse officer. In the near future, any organization around the globe will have his own metaverse, as we have a web page. 25 years ago, many organizations, many companies say, hey, we don't need a web page. But nowadays, everybody, even ours as freelancers, we have a web page. Will be the same in the near future with the metaverse. Most probably, I'm not a magician, I'm not a wizard, but I imagine that. So if we prepare for this, maybe the plan B will become the plan A and better. More money, happy, and closing the cycle. This is my point of view. Now I'm learning about blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, no, because I have my plan B and my plan C, but this is me. No, this is me. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Leo. Leo is pointing a direction to relevant soft skills and hard skills. I guess whichever way our particular careers are directed, we will be able to know from the options he has thrown to us, which of those suggestions would suffice. Thank you so much, Leo. Deepika, I would have you respond to this, and then we'll move on quickly as fast as we can possibly get. The question again, how can we reinvent ourselves to future-proof our career? Yeah?
Sure. Being future ready, I think the one thing, again, it comes back to mindfulness for me, is be mindful about comfort zones, because comfort zones lead you towards redundancy. So be open to challenging your comfort zones, be open to learning new skills, upskilling yourself, be open to mentoring others, especially the younger generation, on the skills that you possess, but also be open to be reverse mentored on the newer skills that they bring to the table. And that pretty much sums up being future ready, because that sensitizes you. Am I comfortable enough? So that's when you put in a question to yourself that, am I standing still and am I being pushed backwards because of standing still? Or do I challenge my comfort zone? Like I mentioned earlier, we challenged our comfort zone of offline interactions and mentoring, and we took a decision within 10 days of the pandemic to pivot online, and we've never looked back. And I don't think we would have been in a better spot than today, where in 2019, we were just 5 cities strong in India. By 2020 mid, because of pivoting online, we had already concluded a global summit with 17 countries, 21 experts coming from global places across the globe, and dignitaries like Sherry Blair showing up for the summit. So I think it's all about recognizing your comfort zones and being mindful of that, and then doing what it takes to push yourself and challenge yourself out of it. That's how you'd get future ready. You're on mute, Olafunke.
My apologies. Thank you so much, Deepika. We need to move out of our comfort zones, is what Deepika is saying. Thank you. Linda, over to you.
Yes, so another question to Peter and Adriana. It's again the starting of the new career, yes, and it's about how can we start fresh in our new career. So we already know that Adriana is pro starting a new career and changing a career, and Peter is a bit not totally recommended. But yes, how would you say to start fresh in a new career? What can we do?
I didn't say I don't really recommend it, but it's like,
sorry.
I mean, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
when you answer yourselves and you say, yeah, this is my threshold, this is what I want, and the answer is yes, I'm changing my career, then obviously go for it. I love it, and yeah, I mean, so that just to make that clear. But how to make it work? I think the answer, it's too important to just say a few words from my own perspective. What I do with my clients, and we really do explore, you know, how you will make it work. One thing that was one of the biggest gifts that I got basically given to myself was that Clifton Strengths profile from Gallup, which, you know, outshines and gives you the details on how you think, what's your talents, what do you do good? So what, you know, what's your tools to make something work, to be successful? But it also gives you the feedback on where you might have your, you know, raw application of those same talents, which basically cause you to fail. So it's like, what's my prevailing mindset? How do I think? Well, you know, I got 5 talents: achiever, focus, maximizer, relator, and a few more, so futuristic and so on. But what I'm trying to say is how to make it work basically again lies into you, in yourself. Meaning, just thinking about your old patterns of how you succeeded in something can tell you basically, you know, what's your go-to strategy to make something work. But for me, if I share my experience, is I'm really focused when I'm onto something that can obviously derail me from seeing other things. So plan B, that doesn't exist for me. And I have, I don't know, my co-founder here with the team, he's got strategic talent, he's top 5. So he's always about plan B, C, D, and so on. So I rely on the team as well. But for me, it's like, okay, this is what needs to happen. I want this to be really great. And then I just chop the big elephant into, sorry, the big piece of, that was not culturally aware. But I chop this, huge goal into smaller ones, and then just go for it. So that's basically my go-to strategy. I have a few more talents, which means I'm a maximizer as well, which means this has to be really great or it has to be the best in the world. And that's why the PMP, right? When I was moving out of Slovenia, I knew there was a big market in Australia for change managers, for project managers. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of every day. There's ads, right? However, once you start applying, for example, if you go to Australia, right? But once you start applying, there's some really, really strict rules, that social capital, so the recommendations and so on. So it's never that you can basically land a job just by saying, I've ran 100 projects and I've done 100 change management projects. They will not believe you because they get thousands of applications, right, for that one particular job. So I had to stand out. And that's why I said, okay, what's that, what's going to prove me or what is going to be that external factor of trust in myself for others to see that I'm really capable of running projects or delivering change management projects, which is what I've done back then. And basically I, in a way, still do very much today. So I realized, okay, if I have a PMP, if I have a ProSci, those certificates, PMP obviously being, very interesting to master, right? And yeah, that's what I always go for it then. Okay, so what are really the big external validation factors for that new role or new career? And I think that's what Adriana also mentioned, right? That's going to cost you something, cost you in terms of investment, either money, more importantly, time. But I really, really also loved what Leo said. If what you're best at, right? So where do you really shine? And if this is something that you're not doing today, and only one person in 6 basically does, what they're best at work. So only 1 in 6 has this opportunity to do it. That's Gallup Global Research on workplace, career, happiness, and so on. That's really, really bad, right? But if you answer this, what am I really best at? And I love this, then you can master it and then you can become really great. So having that external factor of sort of trust as well, but also go for something that you really, really love, not something that's really, really maybe paid well, but you don't like.
All right, thank you very much. So it's very interesting. I have never heard of the 1 person in 6 who does what he really wants to do. It's interesting. So Adria, do you want to add something?
Yes.
Should I repeat the question again? Or?
How do we restart fresh in our careers?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The first, when I think, how do I do to restart fresh? The first thing is to have, to be convinced that you have to restart. The second is to be courageous, because if not, you are not going to have the energy you need to move forward. So I think that restarting means a great change. As everything a change, you need to manage the change. So I think the first thing is to know that you have all the abilities you need to restart. I think that human being is a perfect machine that has everything that needs to live. So you have to go deep inside yourself and find that those abilities you need to restart. But then you have to manage change, and to manage change you have to acknowledge, why do I need to restart, and what abilities and capabilities I need to incorporate, to get, to develop, and to get, no, because capabilities you have to get a new knowledge. Maybe you have to train yourself. And speaking about training, I think that you can train your restarting abilities. You can train them. Sometimes fears go against freshness, maybe fears go against changes, but you have to know that you are not alone. You can go for support and guidance. You can find that support and guidance in your friends, your family, your colleagues. There is a lot of people that is willing to give you that support to restart. So do not miss to ask for help, or to ask for a kind of, I don't know how to say it, but a stick where you can lean you can lean. Is it? So then you have to plan, how are you going to move forward? What are you going to do? You have the historic, the knowledge you got from your previous experience, so use it. I think it's an income, it's an input, a very important input you have to search for. And then I think that the ability to restart should be trained since the early years in our life. I always say that we have to teach young people, to teach kids to be resilient, and to know that all we live in a changing world, where we are going to find ourselves many times during our journey restarting, with the need of restart, because of it's an external and contextual need to restart, or an internal need to restart. So I think that we have I missed the word, but we have to teach our kids and our young people that developing the ability to restart, it's a critical one to have a happy life and to achieve goals. There is no other way.
Thank you very much. So as you see, we are running out of time, and everybody hopes to finish soon. So I want to take the chance to say thank you to all our panelists. And yes, it was a very inspiring session, and the perspectives and insights were very, insightful. Yes, we have learned a lot today. So yes, I'm very grateful for everything that you have shared with us. And I just want to say thank you for everything today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you.
Thanks for
Peter.
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you. All the best. All now and
Thank you.
always.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Leo. And with this, handing over a small token of appreciation to Adriana, Leo, Deepika and Dr. Peter. Again, apologies for changing the timing. And we are so glad that you could stay along. And with this, thank you very much. And we will wrap up the session now. Let's, we'll wrap up the session now. Do keep watching our social media handles for our next upcoming event. And to let us know what do you think about this event by taking the poll here. Linda, Olufunke, great job in moderating the session. And all our panelists, thank you for your words of wisdom. And we have gathered lots of knowledge today, especially from Dr. Catherine, Eddie, and all our panelists. Thank you very much. And with this, I think we can wrap up. What do you say? Team, do you have any last word? Or we can say bye.
No,
Thank you,
this
everybody.
is, thank you very
It's been
much.
an amazing time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a lovely weekend.
Everyone, it was a great session. Thank you,
Thank
all
you.
of you.
Thank
It
you.
was
Bye-bye.
very insightful.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay
Bye.
safe,
To
everybody. Bye-bye.
see
Thank you
soon.
so much.
And congratulations. It was a great event. Congratulations.